Today's episode of the More You Know podcast is brought to you by Question, a brand new social communication platform focused on connecting crowds to bring everyone closer to their community, as well as enhancing any occasion. Rather than being a social media platform focused on content and advertising, they're focused on communication and connection. Learn more about the platform and download the app free at crowdquestion.com.
I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
Today's
More
You
Know
podcast.
Today I want to go through a 4-step self-treatment method to free yourself from obsessive and compulsive behavior, shared in the book Brain Lock by Jeffrey M. Schwartz. So this approach was developed at UCLA, and it can also be called cognitive behavioral self-treatment, or most commonly known as cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT for short. The method was originally designed for OCD, but it can be used for many other forms of obsessive and compulsive behavior. Things like different forms of addictions, anxiety, and many other things. And in fact, I know somebody who went to UCLA to get this treatment done. She was suicidal and had issues with her mental health, trying to kill herself multiple times in the past. Once she went to UCLA and went through this treatment, she stopped having issues and hasn't had issues for years. What ultimately happened was it entirely transformed her life. And no matter what obsessions or compulsions you have, it can transform your life as well. With this being said, I now want to go through the method. So the basic principle that makes up this method is to understand what thoughts and surges really are, so you can learn to manage the fear and anxiety surrounding them, and then in turn overcome them. There's 4 steps that make up the method, and the goal is to perform these steps daily. By going through self-treatment and doing so, you'll be able to overcome your obsessive and compulsive behavior. So I'm now going to go through the 4 steps, starting with step 1, which is relabel. The critical first step is to learn to recognize the obsessive and compulsive behavior you're going through. The basic idea of this step is to call an obsessive or compulsive thought or urge what it is, and be honest with it. This then leads you to step 2, which is reattribute. And to sum up what happens in step 2, you gain the realization that it's not you, it's just an obsession or a compulsion. What you're ultimately doing here is distancing yourself from the obsessive or compulsive nature, and calling it what it is, and ultimately understanding that it's not you, it's just a way that your brain's functioning and it's something separate, which means that you can get through it. You must realize that the intensity and intrusiveness of the thought or urge comes from the obsession or compulsion, and in no way is it who you are. It could be some form of imbalance in brain chemistry, or due to some form of trauma, but in no way is it you. From there we reach step 3, which is to refocus. In the refocusing stage, you're taking notice of your obsession or compulsion, and then you're figuring out a workaround to get through it and not go through the obsession or compulsion. This is done by focusing your attention on different thoughts or doing something differently for at least a few minutes. By simply doing another behavior, it replaces the compulsive or obsessive behavior. And aside from taking 3 to 15 minutes to refocus, you should also keep a journal. And in this journal, you should keep a record of your progress as well as your feelings towards the compulsion or obsessive behavior. And finally, we reach the 4th step, which is revalue. So the whole goal of the first 3 steps was to use your knowledge to gain awareness surrounding your obsessive or compulsive nature, as well as to clarify your mindset and feelings towards it. As a result, you reach step 4 and begin to revalue the obsessive or compulsive nature, and ultimately distance yourself long-term from it, hopefully getting over it. And at this point, you should remember not to take the thought or urge at face value, and realize that it has no significance in itself. No matter who you are, you're likely going through some form of obsessive or compulsive behavior, or know somebody who is. This could be full-blown OCD, addiction, or something else. But regardless, by being aware of this 4-step self-treatment process, you can help yourself and help others around you. And you can also ensure that obsessions and compulsions do not get in the way of making a tremendous impact in this world and crafting a life of significance.
I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
Today's
More
You
Know
podcast.